My name is Yulia Sion. I'm a researcher and industry expert in haptics and wearable technology, and I will be hosting today's episode. Today, we will be discussing emotional wearables tech that enables a sense of connectedness between people. And my guest today is Kwame Ferreira. Kwame is the founder and CEO of Impossible Group, which includes a design agency and several venture products, including Bond Touch, which creates emotional wearables. Hello, Kwame. Thanks for your time and being able to chat with me today. How are you?
Hi, Yulia. Thank you for having me. I'm very well.
Good, good. So, when I was preparing for this interview, of course, I went through your LinkedIn and other articles I could find about your company. But soon after, I actually encountered a really nice thing, something that you do together with your daughter, your 6-year-old daughter, the podcast. And you actually cover lots of interesting topics. So I was really, really impressed and curious to listen to some of those podcasts. And since our conversation will be around touch and touch technology, I was thinking to ask you this question. Imagine if you are like far away from each other, let's say you're traveling, what kind of touch sensation would you like to send her?
Yeah, as I was thinking about it, and it would be my heartbeat. I think we'll cover that a little bit later in this conversation, but we started with just a very simple touch, and then we moved on to multidimensional touch. And one of the things that we've figured out these past couple of years, having released a new product, which is the Bond Heart, is that heartbeats are a form of touch as well. I remember it's probably one of my earliest memories with my grandmother just putting my head against her chest and feeling her heartbeat, right? It's not just listening to it, you feel the vibration. Well, sound is vibration, right? Ultimately. So yeah, I think Wild and we have this fascination for heartbeats. And so, yeah, I would send her my heartbeat, or at least ensure that she has some sort of connection to my heartbeat. And the same applies
What
to
kind of
her.
meaning would you assign to heartbeat?
Heartbeat has an inherent meaning, which is like I'm alive, right? And that's how low I set my bar as a parent, is I just
Right?
want my kid to be alive. Right.
Oh, that's important. I hear you.
And so if I can feel her heartbeat and she can feel my heartbeat, then we're both signaling to each other that we're alive. I think surely there must be some value in that.
All right. Well, you actually, in this answer, you also answered my follow-up question that I had in my mind, actually, because you mentioned that heartbeat is not actually, traditionally imagined type of touch, tactile gesture, right? It usually could be as an audio sensation, right? So something that we hear, or it could be even mapped to a visual representation, but it's not classically like a tactile sensation, but it is, right? So as you nicely described your experience with your grandmother. So yeah, you basically answered my question in terms of that, how we can represent non-traditional touch gestures in a tactile form, such as, for instance, heartbeat, which I think leads to my next question around Bond Touch company that you founded. And just for our listeners, just a quick description of your company, right? And you can add more, of course, to it. But basically, Bond Touch company creates various emotional wearables, which you have this definition on your website, on the website of the company, emotional wearables, which I really like. And these wearables are bracelets, necklaces. You also have some toys, right, in the product line. And these wearables basically can send mediated touches in a form of vibration to people who are apart from each other, right, or at a distance. So basically the products are around tactile sensations, even though you have other multisensorial aspects to it, which we'll discuss a bit later. Now, could you please share a story behind creating these Bond Touch products, and why specifically touch, right? Because they are centered around tactile sensations.
Yeah, haptics is at the core of what Bond Touch does. And the story goes back to I was basically commuting between London and San Francisco for quite a long time. And as somebody who has been developing products for some very large corporations, as well as our own products and for our own companies, such as Bond Touch, you inevitably find yourself in, at some point or another, in a long distance relationship, right? Because you're always out and about. The problem with long distance relationships is very quickly you run out of emojis, or at least I ran out of emojis. And
That's
it's
true.
like, yeah, I love you, oh, I love you too, and then you, okay, I love you more, and you just, after a while, it's just like, I just wish I could touch my
So it's
partner.
kind of lack of expressivity, right, in a way.
Yeah, you can send, alphanumeric characters. You can send voice. You can do FaceTime. I mean, it's pretty good. The amount of communication options, I guess, that you have at your availability. But they're all very centered around sound and image. And there is something about touch. I was brought up in Portugal. It's kind of in the Mediterranean rim. We're kind of Latino. Touch is very important, not just for the Portuguese. Don't get me wrong. I think if you don't touch children when you're growing up, and that experiment has been done in orphanages many years ago and documented, and it's actually quite grueling to read through. Without touch, you cannot have a healthy human being. And in relationships, especially long distance relationship, me and my team, we just thought, look, there's something about touch. What if we introduce touch in a very simple way? And that's where Bond Touch comes from, right? So a very long story for a very long story short. Traveling a lot, you find yourself in a long distance relationship, you run out of options, or at least you saturate those options. Wouldn't it be nice to send touch? Wouldn't it be nice to have a bracelet that comes in pairs? You give one to your loved one, and when you touch, your loved one will feel your touch. I mean, it's the simplest pitch in the world if you think about it. And it was a bit crazy. We launched a some sort of crowdfunding campaign, and we completely bombed. It was horrible. But then one of our videos just went viral in a platform that still exists, but it's not as relevant as it used to be, which is Tumblr. And we realized people wanted it, and so we built it.
Okay. Well, so from this experience, it's a mix of your personal experience and observations. Do you feel that tactile sense has a stronger benefit in comparison to other senses we have for specific instances? Obviously, we can say touch is the most important, right? All senses are important, but maybe in specific instances.
Yeah, they're very different. Like the way we've developed as human beings over the millennia was was very much by prioritizing senses. We know that vision and sound are top for us. We need to kind of see who's coming at us,
Right.
and we need, yeah, it's like, and we need, and we're always listening, right? We have this omnidirectional listening capability. And so if there's, if we hear somebody trip something, oh, what's that? And you very quickly activate your fight or flight instinct. So touch is secondary to this, right? In many ways, but it is fundamental at grounding you, right? With just images, you can be transported to all sorts of different worlds. And it's like when you watch a film, right? Or now with these new immersive experiences, it's very easy to transport somebody with just vision and sound. But if you really want to ground them to wherever you transport them or the moment itself, which is right now, there's nothing like touch, right? Touch is really what I'm feeling this chair, I'm feeling the table, which is marble and it's cold. Like that dimension is what's grounding us. And so there's a lot of potential for it, right? It's not going to replace any of these primary sensory inputs like we discussed, vision and sound, but it's a wonderful complement, and that's how we see it.
I see. Yeah, it's always like I'm thinking about, like, for example, traveling experience, because nowadays we can travel, through the internet and be in this country or that country, right? But what does the actual travel do to us, right? And I think it's very much in a sense of touch, right? Because that's what we are lacking when we are using virtual reality. I mean, right now, virtual reality is trying to incorporate some things, the haptic modality as well, but at a very shallow level still. But it's also, as you say, grounding. I mean, without touch, we cannot exist, right? We don't know who we are and where we are in this moment, actually. But it's not only not only tactile sensations, also kinesthetics and proprioceptive mechanisms, but still, it's actually quite fundamental for our existence. So going back to Bond Touch story, and thank you for sharing this, actually, the whole path to creation and ideation or idea behind Bond Touch. Now, when you launched this product, can you share any design lessons that you learned while launching the product, you and your team, obviously, that you could share, actually? And you can be as technical as you can. Could be, we found out that this form factor didn't work, we tried this and that, or any aspects from user experience, from your initial testings, and what happened in the end. Anything you wish us to know and love to share.
Okay, so design lessons. I'm a big proponent of creating something for oneself. And I think there's nothing like solving one's own problems, right? There's a level of realism and pragmatism inherent to the problems that we ourselves feel and therefore are able to solve. And so this started as a problem we felt, right? I felt, and some members of my team felt. And it's always easier to design with that starting point. Having said that, at some point, our whole product line was kidnapped by a much younger audience than myself. And they literally took over and they create their own love languages. And it's like this Morse code to different degree of complexity. They've literally taken over the use of the product. They see a lot of value in it, and wow, that it's wonderful. But that means that we're no longer just creating the product for ourselves. We have to have conversations with users that aren't necessarily within our cohort, right?
What is the age group of your users? Can you share that?
18 to 25, I'd say that's kind of the core. With the introduction of Bond Heart, it's a lot older, but the bracelet itself around touch has really been taken over by a much younger demographic. And so the first lesson is, do it for yourself, right? Do it because you feel the problem, you feel the pain, you have the need, and you're going to find a solution. When you start talking to users, that's the second lesson for us. It's so important that you listen to their needs as opposed to their desires. Every user is going to sit down with you and say, "Oh, wouldn't it be nice if it had rockets and and had like sparkling stuff and you could send voice messages with it." And so those are desires, right? And you have to see past that, and you have to go and find the real needs behind those desires, and what is really necessary and what is not. That's really lesson number two. Lesson number three, because there's always three lessons, right? I don't know about lesson.
Three is always a number that everyone loves.
It's Christianity, and I'm sure it predates Christianity. And lesson number three, just really make sure that you surround yourself with the best possible team. And I've been fortunate enough to have that. The Bond Touch team is one of the best teams I've worked with. It's inspiring. And that just makes the design, the creative process, and then development process that much more fun. So yeah, I guess those are the three lessons here.
Thank you. I'm sure there are more, but three sounds good. I want to go back to number 2, if you don't mind. So you said that we actually need to listen to needs, not just anything people wish to have. And that's actually very difficult to do, right? Because first of all, I mean, there are some techniques to figure out kind of what is the need versus desire, but then there is also your own vision, right? As a company, where do you want to focus on, right? How, because you could incorporate sound and this and that, right? It's like, it's possible, right? But then how do you draw the line? No, we are just focusing, this is our core, we are just haptics and we want to narrow down there, that's it. How do you do that? I don't know, it's kind of weird question, but it's not easy, I think, to
No,
make.
that's the billion-dollar question, right? When do you stop? There's something called featureitis, which is a disease that certain products suffer from, which is way too many features, right? The
Never heard about
no, featureitis is yeah, I look around and I always see it.
Is there a
Um,
vaccine?
to answer your question, how do you know? So we use something called synthetic users, which is a platform we've created where we simulate human behavior using large language models. And that's really very helpful, cutting through the desire layer and delving deeper into the needs layer in order to really uncover and suss out some insights. So yeah,
So you're already doing it practically. You have a tool.
we're doing
Basically.
it. We're doing it. Yeah, it's called synthetic users, and it's a way you can try it out if you go to syntheticulsers.com. It's a way for teams to have continuous conversations with their customers, with their users, without really bothering them. It's actually quite expensive to talk to users for the most part, right?
Yes.
Participants need rewarding. You need to recruit them. You need to schedule. It's yeah, not only expensive, but to your point, it's also quite time consuming. So we developed this tool that we use, and it's been very helpful. Like in the development of Bond Heart, it has been at the center of that creative process and how we talk to our users. But the real answer, right, around like how do you know when to stop? I think it's just really a lot of experience. If you do many products over time, you realize, okay, why are you doing these products? You're doing these products to fulfill user needs, and you learn how to understand when you are fulfilling a need and when you are going beyond just fulfilling a need. And it's just like, with any recipe, too much salt and you literally ruin the whole thing. So products are very fine tuned towards that balance between need and desire, right? Very quickly they start suffering from, the featureitis ailment. So yeah, I think it's experience. I've been doing this for
Okay,
20
so I got
years.
it. So there is no golden solution, basically.
There's
I
no
didn't
there's
expect, but
there's no
experience.
golden
Okay.
solution.
All right. So have you thought of maybe creating new haptic wearable products beyond the line of one-touch products?
I mean, we have bracelets, we have a pendant, we have a bear.
Tell me more about the bear. Is it for kids or for anyone, or what is inside the bear?
A Bond bear is an interesting experiment. Is it for kids? Not necessarily. I think it's literally for anyone that wants to feel touch without necessarily having to connect with somebody else remotely, right? Like you're not receiving touch from somebody else. You're receiving touch from the bear itself, right? So that's where
What kind
I
of
guess
touch are you talking about? Is it
oh,
it's always
in the case
vibration,
of
or what is it?
no, in the case of the bear, it's the hand, the arm that caresses you, right? It's literally like a little hug. Okay. There's a lot of room to experiment, and that's what the team is working on. Right now, we are looking at not just, right now, it's quite a complex way to, like the mechanics behind having a bear give you a cuddle are actually quite complex. We're trying to
Do you know
simplify
what
that.
kind of actuation technology used for that? Is it a force feedback or vibration motor?
That's force feedback, and it has these quite complex actuators that ensure that the arm kind of does the right movement. And then it has a strip on the back that is touch sensitive that allows you to, as you stroke it, you get that stroke back from the bear, right? So that you have that immediate feedback. But yeah, it's quite complex. We're trying to simplify it. Is it for kids? Right now, the price point will tell you it's not really for kids. It's for kids if you have the money, but it's because it's early days of that particular product line. It's actually quite pricey. We're bringing that price down, and we are introducing other elements. Right, one of our ideas is to introduce the heartbeat. So imagine you have your grandmother's heartbeat in your Bond heart. You pass it on to the bear, and so whenever you cuddle the bear, you feel your grandmother's heartbeat, right? So it's another vehicle for that emotionally charged haptic element, which is the heartbeat in this case.
Can you talk a bit more about the tactile sensation that bracelets can have? So it's a vibration, right? But as I understand, users can create their own vibrational patterns. Am I correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So we started with a very simple vibration, and then with BTM, so it's a Bond Touch More. Bond Touch More actually has two LRAs, so it's multi-dimensional, whereas the original Bond Touch is just one-dimensional. Multi-dimensional, that means you can have a sense of direction, so you can caress somebody or
Right.
convey that feeling of what a caress feels like. There's a vector to it, so that made it increasingly complex. We actually thought that that's what our users wanted, or what our users needed is, oh, they really need more and better touch. It turns out we weren't fully right on this particular insight. Users want to feel connected, and touch has a symbolic layer to it. And once you're in it, you can actually start taking the whole thing very seriously, whereas your users are not taking it as seriously as you might be. And so you really need to match the context, the outside context, to the tool that you're providing and the value you're providing. If you're in an immersive environment and you're building haptic technology for an immersive environment, you will need to couple both properly from an experience perspective. And it's going to be complex. If you are just out and about and you just receive your loved one's touch, it's almost impossible for you to derive context, very rich context outside of that particular touch. So the touch itself is perceived in its own right, as opposed to connected with some visual input. And so it's a mistake we made. We actually thought, look, if we dive deeper into touch and we make it multidimensional and all this and all that, users are going to love it. And yes, users love it, but the delta between having simple touch and multidimensional touch for our use case, which is long distance relationship without the coupling of the visual dimension, is really not worth it. So that's a big lesson for us.
So a quick question. You said by adding a second actuator, right, making multidimensional, it became very complex. When you say complex, it became complex for product, it became, too cumbersome, too expensive, whatever, or it became complex for the users to use it?
No, it became complex from a product perspective, and we haven't really seen the upside of that particular investment. So there's an extra investment there. And then we talk to our users, and our users say, yeah, it's great. It's okay. But what if it's just one touch?
They didn't feel the difference.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine. Yeah, all we want is touch. We're not into kind of multidimensional. Great if it is, but we're not going to go out of our way for it. So it's very important to match context to the tool you're actually delivering and the value you're delivering.
You mentioned a very important thing is that touch is basically it needs to be simple in this particular context of distance relationship, right? People do not need all kinds of different meanings, right? Communicated through various vibrations, right? It seems like one type of vibration will be enough because they already know what it means because it's sent by this loved one or not.
I would correct you there by saying you are right. They like the simplicity of the touch itself as just, as just a vibration. But on the software layer, we have empowered them with the ability to give meaning to different touches, right? But that's different from the hardware, right? We're talking about an abstraction layer on the software side, and that's been very interesting. The learnings there have been that people really love to create their own love languages, right? Their own touch languages. We're not allowed to say love language, that's trademarked. So their own touch languages. And that means, like I'm going to send you 3 touches, and the software, the app translates the 3 touches into I love you. So you will receive 3 touches, you'll feel the 3 touches, and then if you go to your screen, you'll see I love you. That translator, that touch translator, has been quite successful. So you can actually keep the touch very simple because of the long distance relationship component. But then on top of it, you can actually build layers of complexity like this particular example.
That's very interesting. Are you thinking of collecting these love languages somehow? That would be interesting to see this library of different.
Well, touch is one of the love languages, right? So one of the 5 love languages. And
right. Then, better say touch sensations that map to different love meanings or expressions of love or care. I'm sure there are many of things.
Yeah. But that's down to the user, right? That's where we kind of start acting like a platform, and we just try it out. Oh, you're creating your own touch languages. Amazing. Let's continue developing this and seeing how far our users are actually taking this. Yeah, that's exciting. But like I said, that's a software layer above the hardware.
I see. Well, I know that also in addition to haptics, you also have multisensorial kind of element. Basically, you have a visual element added where people can add different color to different tactile sensations, right? Do they do it themselves, or were these things predetermined already in a software? Or I was just curious, how does this mapping happen actually? Let's say red to this particular tactile sensation, blue to the other one, or whatever you have there. How did you design it? How did you make the decision also?
We're quite agnostic. So there's a color wheel, and you can assign different colors to different touches. And the color wheel was actually primarily developed for like you have a particular color and I have a particular color, and so I kind of look. Some people use it in a way, in kind of a mood setting way. Oh, I'm feeling really bad today, so I'm going to be red. I thought, oh, I'm getting red touches. This is actually not good. Or, I'm jubilant and it's like pink, or, like turquoise. So what we need to do, and what we've done quite well, is just provide the tools. And then people themselves will take those tools and the scars that they imply, because we like I said, there's not a lot there, right? You have just a very few tools. You can do touch and you can choose different colors. And they create their own languages, right? And they create their own routines, and it's just between them, right? It's like, it's just no one else will know. It's their own world, and I find that quite beautiful. That so much simplicity can generate rather a lot of complexity.
That's like a hub for creativity, actually. Would you be able to share any maybe testimonials from the users of Bondage, how it maybe affected their lives, having these bracelets or necklaces?
Bracelets and necklaces and the bear.
And the bear.
For long distance relationship, we have become a bit of a beacon, right? Like we create a lot of value to that particular, add a lot of value to that particular demographic. So there are countless stories of people that have been separated by, virtue of going to university, different job. The military is quite big, they get posted somewhere overseas and we're able to add value to that relationship. The heart has created, because the demographic there is skewing older, the heart has given people the opportunity to capture heartbeats, right? And capture their loved ones' heartbeats. So you can record those heartbeats and you can feel those heartbeats forever. So we get a lot of situations where a family member is passing away, and before they pass away, the family gets to record their heartbeat, and then that's it. They have it. They can share it between themselves, and they will have it forever, right? So it's super emotional. These are very private situations, right? Very family-centric situations that we really weren't expecting. Like I said, when I created this, I was more thinking of my kids. But yeah, but it turns out that's how people are using it, and yeah, we're expanding that product line in order to better cater to that use case. People want to listen. They don't just want to feel the heartbeat, they want to listen to heartbeat. So the team is working on that right now. And then there's the whole dimension of visualizing the heartbeat as well, the vibration. So use cases, or case studies there. I mean, yeah, if you go online, it's hard to kind of not cry in a lot of these TikToks that you see, because they are super, super emotional. But that's when you were truly adding value, right? And we are embracing that right now. That's it. We even have pets. Like people have recorded the heartbeats of pets that they wanna keep forever.
Interesting.
There's this. People keep surprising us.
Very deep connection, I would say, to the product.
Mm-hmm.
So far, we talked about this whole area of haptics in a dimension of human connectedness, right? As you call it, emotional wearables, sense of presence in a way. But if you think about the whole trend of wearable technology moving forward, where do you see the role of haptics? How will it change, maybe, where it's going to be the more beneficial or needed? What's your projection?
Yeah, where is that? I mean, there's so many super bright people working on this. If you look what's coming out of Disney and their research labs, it is quite amazing. They obviously have, a vested interest in developing this technology, given their theme parks and whatnot. Meta and Apple done a great job at immersive environments, right? Having a go at providing immersive experiences that can really benefit from touch. They'll continue to develop and acquire technology in that space. Where is it going? I fear that immersive technology is going to take over development in haptics for the foreseeable future. But there's room outside of that, right? We're not really right now. We haven't really invested into the metaverse or the Oculus or even the new Vision Pro. We haven't really gone there. I don't know. Let's talk in a couple of years and see. We may go in that direction. For now, there is something, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, around grounding people, around mental health. We're doing a lot of stuff now where you can actually go through a guided meditation in a much more, I guess, focused manner with touch, with the help of touch, right? And so we see a lot of benefits in terms of mental health. Long distance relationships are quite violent, can be quite violent. We're talking about separation, we're talking about anxiety, insecurity. And so touch is able to ground you, to give you that sense of belonging, of self, of the other, that sense of presence. Yeah, we feel like there's a lot to do there. And there's so many teams working on and so many different things. We come at it from the angle of simplicity, and I think that's where we will stay for the time being. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Thanks for sharing these thoughts of yours. We are kind of running out of time, but I still want to ask you the last question, which will be around sustainability, because I know you have very strong focus on sustainability, and you also came up with this planet-centric design approach versus commonly known user-centered approach. If we talk about haptic tech, right, and with hardware elements, I mean, there's a question how sustainable these devices are and what are the ways to make them more planet-centric, right? How to incorporate this planet-centric approach in the design process of wearable technology. Have you thought, I'm sure you've thought about that, maybe you could share something with us as well.
Yeah, what we can share is that sustainability is a multi-dimensional problem. It's not just about cleaning up the supply chain of a particular product, although that is super important. So if you look at it from an SDG perspective, right, we need to hit certain targets. And we have about 17 SDGs, way too many. And those SDGs have implied metrics. Whenever you are creating a product, you can look at it from, I guess, 17 different angles, right? From certain angles, you're not going to have a lot of impact, but other angles you are. And when we started out Bond Touch, one of our missions was really to try and get you away from the screen, right? If I just receive a touch, I can, okay, I got it. I just received it. 3 touches. Okay, I know what that means. I don't have to go to my screen. We unlock our phone hundreds of times a day. It used to be 150. That's completely outdated. It's hundreds of times a day. And so if we can work on that dimension, and what dimension is that? Are we talking about, SDG 3, health? What are we really addressing? And so, yeah, planet centricity is really about not just putting the user at the center of the creative process, but being a little bit more ambitious and looking at sustainability from a multidimensional perspective, which is very hard to do. So look, we produce so few products in comparison to bigger OEMs that it's a drop in the ocean. Like, it's almost meaningless from, if you look at it from an SDG 13 perspective, like carbon, like our carbon impact is relatively small, if not insignificant in the grandest scheme of things. Are we doing, initiatives to reduce it? Of course, right? But it's still so small. I think where we can have most impact, and that's what we're realizing, really is in health, and especially mental health. That comes with, like I said, with separation anxiety, and I guess the consequences of long distance relationships. I think we can do a lot there. That is sustainability. It's one of the dimensions of sustainability. Yeah, I think how we treat our teams, our people, the people who are actually creating this, so decent work conditions. That's another SDG that we put a lot of focus on. It's definitely top of mind for us. But like I said, because we're looking at it from a multidimensional perspective, I don't think we are an example yet of, hey, these guys are like super planet centric. But, look, we're trying. I think it's important to do it and not brag about it. I even have a hard time kind of talking about it. Yes, we audit our factories, we do all this, but that's kind of the minimum. That's what everybody should be doing. It's yeah.
But it's still inspiring to hear that, it doesn't matter how big or small you are, you can still have an impact, right? And it's actually also about the focus, right? Where can you do the biggest impact, right? In terms of sustainability, for instance, if you're that size company of that size, as long as you're kind of realizing what you can do and that you should do, I think it's already important to have. Thank you for your time.